Daf Yomi, Tractate Zevachim, page 28a, top of the page, with the words Ka'aliyah Dami, Veha Ka Mechashev Me'achilas Mizbeach L'Adam. It's considered as though it were part of the tail itself. The tail of a sheep sacrificed as a peace offering is burned on the altar rather than eaten. But if so, one who slaughters the sheep with intent to consume the skin of its tail the next day has intent to shift its consumption from consumption by the altar, meaning burning the offering, to consumption by a person. Since intent to consume part of an offering beyond its designated time renders an offering pigul only if that part is intended for human consumption, why does the Mishnah rule that such an offering is pigul? Amar Shmuel Hamani Rabbi Eliezer De Amar Mechash Mechilas Mizbeach Nechilas Odom Umachilas Odom Nechilas Mizbeach. Shmuel says, in accordance with whose opinion is this? It is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, who says one can have intent to shift an item's consumption from consumption by the altar to consumption by a person, or from consumption by a person to consumption by the altar, and the offering will still be rendered pigul. Ditnan ashoichet es hazevach lechol davar she'en darko lechol lehaktir davar she'en darko lehaktir kosher. The Rabbi Eliezer posed. This is, as we learned in the Mishnah in 35a, in the case of one who slaughters the offering with intent to partake of an item whose typical manner is such that one does not partake of it, or to burn an item whose typical manner is such that one does not burn it on the altar beyond its designated time or outside its designated area, the offering is fit, and Rabbi Eliezer deems it unfit. B'mayu kimta ki Rabbi Eliezer masefah ze haklal kol hashachid v'hamikav l'ma'alev hazoyrek l'echol davar shedag l'echol ha'aktir davar shedag l'aktir. The Gemara asks, in accordance with which opinion did you interpret the Mishnah here? You interpreted it in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer. But if so, say the latter clause, meaning the next Mishnah in 29b. This is the principle. Anyone who slaughters the animal, or who collects the blood, or who conveys the blood, or who sprinkles the blood with the intent to partake of an item whose typical manner is such that one partakes of it, or to burn an item whose typical manner is such that one burns it on the altar beyond its designated time, renders it pigul. Davar shedak lecholin shein dak lecholo asin rabbanon resha Rabbi Eliezer v'sefer rabbanan amalein. One can infer that intent to partake of an item whose typical manner is such that one partakes of it does render it pigul, while intent to partake of an item whose typical manner is such that one does not partake of it does not render it pigul. In this clause, we arrive at the opinion of the rabbis. Can it be that the first clause is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, while the latter clause is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis? Shmuel said to him, yes. That is how one must understand the Mishnah. Rav Huna Amar O Aliyah Lav Ka'aliyah Dami Amorobi Ma'itayim Rav Huna Ochel Lo Ha'aliho V'lo Ha'aliho. Rav Huna says the skin of the tail is not considered as though it were the tail itself. Unlike the tail itself, its skin is consumed. Consequently, both this Mishnah and the next can be understood in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. Rabbah said, what is the reasoning of Rav Huna, as the verse states, and he shall present the sacrifice of peace offerings, an offering made by fire unto the Lord, the fat thereof, the fat tail, Leviticus 3:9, indicating that the priest must offer the fat of the tail on the altar, but not the skin of the tail. Rav Chisda Amar Yoilam, O Haliyah Kal Yadami, V'Hachomai Skin V'Ale Shel Yedi. Rav Chisda says that actually the skin of the tail is considered as though it were the tail itself, and it is burned on the altar. And here in the Mishnah, we are dealing with the tail of a kid, which is not burned on the altar, but is consumed. Accordingly, intent to consume it outside is designated, its designated time renders it pigul. Kulu kishmuel lo amri resha Rabbi Eliezer the Sofer Rabbanan lo mokimi ke Rav Huna lo amri o aliyah kal yadami kamash malahu. The Gemara notes all of them, Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, do not say as Shmuel says, since they do not wish to interpret that the first clause is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and the latter clause is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. And Shmuel and Rav Chisda do not say as Rav Huna says, since they heard that that the skin of the tail is considered as though it were the tail itself. Rav Chisda, my tamil amri, my kamash bilon, o aliyah kal yadami, tanina ve'elu sha'esen kibsaron, o titaras aliyah. The Gemara asks, what is the reason that Shmuel and Rav Huna do not say, as Rav Chisda says, that the Mishnah is referring to the tail of a kid? The Gemara responds that they reason, according to Rav Chisda, what is the Mishnah teaching us? By referring specific to the kid of the tail. Does it mean to teach simply that the skin of the tail is considered edible like the tail itself? We already learned this in another mission, Chulin 122a. There are the entities whose skin has a halachic status like that of their meat, since it is soft and edible, the skin beneath the tail. Rav Chisda itzrich sal kedai techamina halimili binyan tuma darkich mitzaref aval hacha emel mashcha לגדולה כדרך שמלאכים אוכלים ולא אבי מלאכים לאכלי הכי אמלה כמש מלאהם. The Gemara asks Rav Chisda, how would he respond? The Gemara answers the reference here to the skin of the tail was necessary, as given only the Mishnah in Tractate Chulin. It might enter your mind to say, this matter, the equation between the skin of the tail and the tail itself applies only with regard to the matter of the ritual impurity, as the skin of the tail is soft and edible and is therefore counted as part of the tail. But here, with regard to the matter of the temple service, I will say that the verse states, with regard to the gifts to which members of the priesthood are entitled as a consecrated portion, Numbers 18 verse 8, to indicate that there must be eaten in greatness, that they must be eaten in greatness in the way that the kings eat. And since kings do not generally eat the skin of the tail, I will say that it is not considered an eaten portion of the offering. The Mishnah therefore teaches us that it is nevertheless considered like the tail itself. Okay, the Gemara raises an objection. The Gemara raises an objection from Brisa. One who slaughters a burnt offering with intent to burn an olive bulk of the skin beneath the tail outside its designated area renders the offering disqualified, but there is no liability for one who partakes of the offering. If his intent is to burn it beyond its designated time, it renders it pigul, and one is liable to receive karet for eating it. This is the opinion of the rabbis. That's interesting. I don't know if you ever had this guy before. Eliezer ben Yehuda, Ish Avelim. Have you ever had it before? Eliezer ben Yehuda ish avelim. Okay, Eliezer ben Yehuda ish avelim omer mishum Rabbi Yaakov v'chen haya Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda ish kvar ikus omer mishum Rabbi Shimon. Eliezer ben Yehuda ish avelim. Might be the first time we ever had him. Okay. Echad beis hapara sois behem adakra v'echad shel egel harach v'echad shetachas haniyah v'chol sheman hachachamim gabi tumam v'elu she'oi orosein kibsaron gaviyah shel beis haboshes chutz t'b'kom ha'pasur v'mbokores chutz t'zman ha'pigul b'chayim v'levkores. Elazar, it's not Eliezer, it's Elazar. Elazar ben Yehuda of Avelim says, in the name of Rabbi Yaakov, and so Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda of Kfar Ikos would say in the name of Rabbi Shimon, whether the hide of the hooves of small livestock or the skin of the head of a young calf or the skin beneath the tail or any of the skins that the sages listed with regard to ritual impurity under the heading, these are the entities whose skin has a halakhic status like that of their meat, which means to include the skin of the womb. If one has intent to burn one inside its designated area, the offering is disqualified. But there is no liability for karet for burning or partaking of it. And if one's intent is to burn it beyond its designated time, he renders it pigul, and one is liable to receive karet for burning or partaking of it. Olain aval zevach lo. Okay. Olain aval zevach lo. Olain aval zevach lo. Where are we? Yeah, Bishlam Rav Huna. Dahaidu diktani oila. One can infer from the Braita that only with regard to a burnt offering, yes, the skin of the tail is burned on the altar like the tail itself. With regard to another offering, this is not the halakha. Granted, according to Rav Huna, who holds that the skin of the tail is of a peace offering is not considered as though it were the tail itself, and it is eaten rather than burned. This is the reason that the Tana teaches about a burnt offering. Specifically, all portions of a burnt offering are burned, even those that are eaten in the case of other offerings. Or according to Rav Chinsta, who holds that the skin of the tail is burned together with the tail, why does the Tana specifically teach about the burnt offering? If the skin of the tail is always considered as though it were the tail itself, what does the Tana teach about any offering? Amar lach Rav Chinsta, Iboy Zema, Be'ali Shel Gedi, Ema, Iboy Zema, Tni Zeva. Rav Chinsta could have said to you, if you wish, say that the Braita is referring to the tail of a kid, which is never burned on the altar, except in the case of a burnt offering. And if you wish, say instead that one should amend the text of the Braita to teach one who slaughters any offering. Okay. Cool. The Mishnah states that if one intends to consume the meat or sprinkle the blood outside its area, the offering is disqualified, and there is no liability for karet for one who partakes of it. If one intends to do so beyond its designated time, the offering is rendered pigul, and one is liable to receive karet for burning or partaking of it. The Gemara asks, from where are these matters derived? Shmuel says, 2 verses are written. Maihi, what are these 2 verses? Rabba Shlishi Zehu Chut Lizmanu. What are these verses? Rabba said Shmuel is referring to 2 verses from the verse, and if any of the flesh of his peace offerings be at all eaten on the 3rd day, it shall not be accepted, neither shall be credited to he who offers it. It shall be pigul, and the soul that eats of it shall bear his iniquity. Leviticus 7:18. So you just taught that this verse is referring to not to offerings actually eaten on the 3rd day, but one who performs one of the sacrificial rites with intent to eat the offering beyond its designated time. Now, when the verse states if any of the flesh be at all eaten on the third day. This is referring to intent to consume the meat beyond its designated time. Pigul zeu chutz mkomo v'nefesh acheres mimenu echav v'lo shnayim zeu chutz mizmanu u'lemuteh chutz mkomo. When the verse states it shall be pigul, this is referring to one who has intent to consume it outside its designated area. And when the verse states, and the soul that eats of it shall bear his iniquity, meaning shall be liable to receive karet, it indicates that only one of the above disqualifications carries the penalty of karet for one who partakes of it, but not two of them. And this included case is intent to consume the offering beyond its designated time, to the exclusion of intent to consume it outside its designated area, which carries no such penalty. The Gemara asks, but why not say the opposite? That when the verse states, and the soul that eats of it shall bear his iniquity, this is referring to intent to consume the offering outside its designated area, to the exclusion of intent to consume it beyond its designated time. The Gemara responds, it stands to reason that intent to consume the offering beyond its designated time is the preferable candidate to carry the punishment of karet, as the verse opened with it. The Gemara rejects this. On the contrary, intent to consume the offering outside its designated area is preferable, as the clause that teaches liability for karet is adjacent to it. Ela amar Abaye ki asar Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi amarav samich aditani tana kishu omer shlishi b'parashat kedoshim tiyu she'en talmud lomar שהרי כבר נאמר אם אכל מבשר זבח השלמים ביום השלישי. Rather, Abaye said, when Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi came, he said that Rav says Shmuel was actually referring to two separate verses, and he relied on that which the Tana taught. The verse is seemingly redundant when it says, and if it be eaten at all on the third day it is pigul, it shall not be accepted. Leviticus 19 verse 7, and in the Torah portion that begins, you shall be holy, Leviticus 19 verse 2, as there is no need for the verse to state this, since it is already stated, and if any of the flesh of his peace offerings be at all eaten on the third day, it shall be pigul, Leviticus 7:18.